Over the years, we have seen a lot of mishaps by Disney when it came to Disney Star Wars as a whole. We have seen what Kathleen Kennedy did to the sequel trilogy films, alongside, of course, with both the Kenobi and Boba Fett TV shows that left a lot of fans up in arms and just very disappointed and let down as to exactly where everything was going for the franchise. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about, of course, Kathleen Kennedy as of today is that she is still having a lot of issues with both shows, The Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew specifically being the worst production out of all of Disney Star Wars. It's that bad. There's been so many setbacks, having a toxic environment. John Watts is in a very sticky situation where he's good friends with Jon Favreau, but he's also taking orders from Kathleen Kennedy. And so it really is quite a bit of a mess right now. A lot of delays, a lot of setbacks, Disney losing money on some of the sets that had to be taken down and recreated. But anyways, I digress. That brings us to what Disney is about to do with the Skywalker Saga and what Disney was able to confirm about their actual goals in mind for the future of this brand and where it's really all heading for the fandom to witness. Now, we already know that Star Wars is going to be an ever-evolving process throughout this year, 2023, leading into 2024 and 25. These 3 years are going to be the biggest years out of all of Star Wars under Disney because they are trying to establish something greater than what they have ever done, creating a big universe for Disney Plus, and then really focusing on huge Star Wars movies again, which is exactly what Bob Iger is beginning to do right now. Now, with that being all said, however, with Favreau and Filoni getting ready to develop new Star Wars shows that will be announced this April, however, recently Disney CEO Bob Iger came forward and alluded to resetting the Skywalker Saga for the Star Wars fandom by stating the following to the entire community. We realized that over the years, some of our decisions were not of the best and only caused fan division, from alienating the source material that we could have worked with. We had a mapped out plan of how the Skywalker Saga was going to go, and how it is going to flow, with the upcoming shows and other projects that we have in the works. What we are very proud to say is that with Mr. Favreau and Filoni, they will be refreshing the state of the Skywalker Saga and altering our initial plans for the saga timeline that the fans cherish so much. It's in our best interest to change our plans completely of the events that take place between where George left off with Return of the Jedi and where we picked up in The Force Awakens. Now, let me just stop here quick for a second. Now, we already know that this has been an ongoing thing for well over a year now, and now we have people out there like Favreau coming forward about this, Mark Hamill coming forward about this, even Bob Iger really putting and setting things straight. Now, obviously Disney had a fleshed out plan for what they wanted to do with the Skywalker Saga, what they wanted to do with Luke. They basically wanted to keep it very simple, that Luke never had a child, Luke never had a wife, and other things in there, you know, related to Rey's parents and Palpatine, all these crazy different things are now going to be flipped around and more catered and taken from Star Wars Legends. And it all begins with, of course, Ahsoka Season 2. Let's tap right into this and exactly what Favreau and Filoni are up to. Now, in case you guys don't know, Favreau and Filoni are really pushing for a second season of Ahsoka to turn it from being a limited show into a multi-season show. And this has happened before with many other projects out there before in the past. A great example is a show like Your Honor, that was first supposed to be a limited series, now it's a multi-season show. That's basically what they are doing with the Ahsoka Tano series, turning it into a multi-season. Now, with that being said, that, of course, brings us to exactly what's about to happen in Ahsoka Season 2, and what's really going to take place that's going to impact the entirety of the Skywalker Saga and more. So anyways, let's elaborate. Now, you guys may very well know Star Wars Rebels Season 4 introduced a place called the World Between Worlds. Now, this is a realm that has a lot of rules provided by the wills. This is about to be made canon, by the way, that it's the deities that control this realm and specifically allow certain things to happen and other certain things to not happen to keep balance of the dark and the light. Now, of course, this is something that, of course, he goes on to say, this is something that we have been talking about for a long time, on how we can reform many of the characters that are both new and familiar to the fans. Separate from what Iger stated, this all alludes to how Jon and Dave have a big plan to change certain events using the World Between Worlds in Ahsoka Season 2 that is now moving forward at Disney. This is set to include completely changing Luke's past and how it deeply impacts the sequel movies. The continuation of the Skywalker bloodline will also be another focus by Disney this time around as well. Now, again, the fact that they are going to be expanding the Skywalker bloodline, we're talking about, of course, the introduction of Luke's son in the current canon, as well as what we talked about already with the planned episodes 10 through 12 in the distant future. They want to get this thing rolling by 2026 to actually head into production for that. To actually have Cade Skywalker down the line and having all these different bloodlines related to that actual family tree is something that Disney is now focused on. Now, some fans may not like this because they're like, well, the Skywalkers are not everything. But to be honest, you know, the Skywalkers are the glue of Star Wars. I'm not saying that everything has to be about the Skywalkers, you know, I'm not saying that at all, but all I'm saying is that the Skywalkers need to stay relevant. They cannot just be forgotten or wiped out completely. You have to at least have them somewhere in the background every now and again. It has to work like that because they are basically the glue of the Star Wars franchise to a level. You know, we can always bounce back and forth between different projects that exclude them, that's fine. But you can't get rid of the Skywalkers completely, like, forever. So, anyways, this is a very interesting development because everything happening with Ahsoka Season 2 now is set to use the World Between Worlds. That's going to really reset the events that take place in between Episode 6 and Episode 7, Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. And how a lot of that will be told in, of course, not just Ahsoka Season 2, but also in future Star Wars shows. There's a Bo-Katan series in the works. We already talked about this, of how it's now going to be titled Star Wars Mandalore. It's going to feature Bo-Katan, Mandalore itself, and it's going to have a lot of flashbacks showing us Tar Vizsla, who is both a Jedi and a Mandalorian. And it's also going to involve a lot of the fan-favorite characters in present time, like Luke, Din, Grogu, Ahsoka, Sabine Wren, Ezra, and Thrawn. There's a lot to work with, there's a lot of things on the horizon, and we already know that Jon Favreau wants to make Thrawn the Thanos of the Star Wars franchise. So anyways, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. From night to moon we hear them